What's up, everybody? It's Reinforced back with another Power Rankings episode, and again, no matches this past week, so again, we're just pumping out some special content for you guys in the bye week, something for you to watch and maybe enjoy here in the coming weeks before we get started with the Overwatch League again, following the main Melee and APAC tournaments. So this week I figured I'd do an Ask Reinforce extravaganza where you guys can ask me some questions and I can go more into detail what I think about the questions and give you some rough answers in a way. There's been some changes so far in the transfer market, I guess, of the Overwatch League, so I'm hoping I can provide some insight into questions you guys have. So thank you so much again for submitting those questions. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you. So let's jump straight into it because we only have so much time on these episodes. We don't want any 30-minute episodes, so I'm gonna try to pick out some good questions and get some good answers for you guys. And you can let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me or if you don't agree with me. It's fine to disagree. It's good to have a productive conversation. So first question of the week. This one comes in from Tobichian. Is that Dutch? I'm gonna go with that. I'm sorry for butchering your name. Do you think the Paris Eternal will raise in ranking with XC coming back from his neck injury and Sparkle finally being eligible to play this next upcoming week? Yes, that's right. Sparkle turned of age. He's now 18 and he can play alongside some of his former teammates. For example, Hanbin, who he has great synergy with. And I've done some studying up on Sparkle here in the bye weeks because I wanted to know how he played in contenders and how he's going to fit into this roster. So this is a fantastic question to sort of start us off. Needless to say, I think Sparkle has tons of potential. Keep in mind, he just turned 18, and he has so much individual skill and so much talent to really step into that role and become a next-level superstar in the league. That being said, he is not that yet. He needs some time to grow and gain some more experience. I reviewed a lot of his gameplay, and yeah, his Doomfist and his Pharah is really insane, like really good. It's definitely up there as some of the best in the world. Not necessarily a superstar kind of level, but he's really good and definitely above average in the league. That being said though, he has a tendency to be very volatile kind of player. He goes super aggressive sometimes, and sometimes he goes for very aggressive plays where his team can't necessarily follow up all the time, which leads to sometimes he just ints. He just goes in and some ints and maybe some questionable ultimate usage or whatever. Sometimes throws some things away. So he has some improvement to be made, but when you watch Sparkle play, you can definitely see that he has some great ideas, he has the initiative, and great mechanical skills. So I think if he polishes up some of his play, I think this is going to be a really good addition to the Paris Eternal. Now, right off the bat, I could see a world in where Nico sort of alternates playtime with Sparkle to begin with. Maybe you want Nico to play a bit more of the Mei because he has more experience of that in the Overwatch League so far this season, and we know that Sparkle's Mei is good from watching him play that in Korean contenders, but I think that Sparkle might need to polish it up a little bit. There were some questionable walls and ultimates, even though, again, he was one of the better Meis in Korean contenders. But can he play up to par with Nico on that Mei? That's a good question. I think we'll have to see what he can do about it. But when it comes to the Doomfist and the Pharah, I think that Sparkle is a great addition to this team. And keep in mind, he has so much synergy with some of these teammates already that I think he's really going to just be able to plug in and play. And then we'll see him evolve over time. I don't think it's an instantaneous switch where the Paris Eternal become a top team, but now with Sparkle being an addition to this team, they have a lot of great players they can evolve with over time, and I think the Paris Eternal, they might not necessarily be a top team off the bat, but they have that potential, and I think their peak level is certainly in where they can make maybe even like the top 4. That's quite extreme actually. I mean, quarterfinals of like whatever the Overwatch League season playoffs is, top 4 if they're lucky and, you know, manage to get some upset win or whatever. But needless to say, I think the Paris Eternal, especially going into next year, will be a real force to be reckoned with. And I think Sparkle maybe unlocks some of their peak capability, but Nico is good already, and it'll be interesting to see how Sparkle and Nico sort of share playtime, where they fully commit to Sparkle right off the bat. But needless to say, Sparkle has a ton of individual skill, a ton of potential, and it is there. I just don't know if they're going to be utilizing him off the bat as much as I think some people in the community think. So we'll see what happens there, but short answer is definitely rise in the ranking, especially with XC coming back if he does come back. I think those are two great damage players, but there's some potential there. They have to work their way through the practice, etc., to become better, because I don't think they're at the peak level quite yet. Comes in from Marvel Mono. what can Haksal do for the New York Excelsior? So this was one of the signings announced here in the bye weeks where Haksal has joined the New York Excelsior, and a lot of people are thinking, well, just another Genji player. You know, the New York Excelsior, they have a reputation of bringing in new, flexible, projectile players and not really utilizing them. Flower, you know, who are you, for example? So this again is just another projectile player, but it is Haksal, and it's noteworthy because he is one of the best damage players in the world, okay? And I'm not underselling that, that's just facts. He is one of the best damage players in the world. So I'm hoping that Haksal can bring a lot to this team, not only in terms of how good he is individually, but I also hope he brings some assertiveness and maybe initiative to this team, because in the past, as of recent, I do think that the New York Excelsior, they have been flexing a lot between their players, a lot of substitutions, a lot of wacky compositions sometimes, and maybe I want them to become more solid in their decision making for what compositions they are going to play and how they are going to utilize their players. And maybe Haksal can bring some stability in that regard, because Haksal is certainly a player that you could field all the time, and he has a ridiculous peak level, and he can play so many different heroes. So I'm hoping he gets involved in maybe the shot calling aspect a little bit, maybe alleviates the pain from not playing Cybiolbi all the time, because we know that New York, they usually play their best when Cybiolbi is in the lineup and can help bring some emotions down and can help shot calling and help out a little bit. Maybe Haksal can bring a different kind of personality and a different perspective to that, and hopefully help out the New York Excelsior. So I think this is a great addition, not only for Haksal's individual skill and the fact he is so good on so many different heroes, but because he can bring some shot calling to maybe the game and some personality. So I hope this is a great contribution for Haksal in general, and I think that he can do a lot of change for the New York Excelsior moving forward. So in my mind, I do think that New York Excelsior, they become a top team immediately. They have struggled at some points in APAC and shown some inconsistency, but with this addition, I think New York instantly becomes a top contender in the league, but they'll have to prove that they are worthy of that title over the long term. So we'll see what Haksal does to the New York Excelsior, but I'm really optimistic. Moving forward to our third question from Jay Pro Blitz. Do you think hydration should be main tank solution for the Outlaws, or should they look to pick someone up? Kaiser. Muma's not looking too hot at the moment. Nice haircut, by the way. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jay. I agree with you. I don't think that hydration is a long-term solution for this team. Now, Dream, the assistant coach of the Outlaws, I think he's an assistant coach anyway, made a statement on a podcast, Tactical Crouch, a great Overwatch podcast. Do recommend you check that out. And he said that it was a temporary solution because Muma had some wrist injury or wasn't really feeling comfortable with his arm or something like that. So maybe hydration was subbed in to alleviate some of that pressure from Muma and just serve as a bit of a break for Muma to make sure that he could get some rest accordingly and is ready to go for the rest of the season. And hydration plays that role pretty well because he is so flexible and can play so many different heroes. He is a bit of a plug and play kind of player where you need someone to fill in for another role. Hydration can do that for you because he is a very flexible player in that regard. So obviously I don't think this is a long-term solution for the Outlaws. I think the main tank role is probably the one they've been struggling with the most, even dating back, to earlier seasons where I think that maybe with a better main tank they would have had better results. That being said, Muma's a great Winston, etc., and he gets some big shatters on the Reinhardt and can play the ball as well, so he is pretty flexible. But I'm wondering if it comes down to maybe the shot calling of the team. Maybe they need a main tank who, brings more initiative. Obviously, I'm just speculating here because I don't have that type of insight. I don't know what the shot calling structure is within the Outlaws. I don't know what Muma brings to the table. But I could see a world in where a main tank pickup, a great main tank pickup for the Outlaws, would make a big difference for this team. So hydration sort of feels that temporarily, but I would like to see them pick someone else up for a permanent addition to this team. I don't think Kaiser is necessarily it. I think there's other promising contenders talent if you look at NA or Korea specifically, I think. But I think that Kaiser is someone I'd like to see to maybe go to the Washington Justice and maybe fill in for Roar a little bit. Maybe you do a situation where Roar plays the Winston and the Orisa, and then Kaiser can play the Reinhardt, something like that. I don't think that Kaiser necessarily is the solution for the Outlaws, even though he's a fan favorite. I know there's a lot of Kaiser fans out there, but I would like to see Kaiser go to a team like the Washington Justice because I think that's a good fit for him. But I do think that the Outlaws also, they need a new main tank in my opinion. I think they should pick someone up from either Contenders or whatever. I think I saw Alpha was being released from Element Mystic, so I don't know what's up with that, you know, maybe bring in Alpha for the main tank solution. It has a good name too. I don't know. But I agree with you. Hydration, good short-term solution. Maybe Muma will be back if his arm is feeling better. I don't have enough insight into that regard. So we'll see what happens. For our fourth question, and final question actually, from Packinator 123. What do you think of the Gladiators right now? Why are they so low? So the Gladiators, in my opinion, is the most volatile team of the league. Okay, they can bring great performances or pretty lackluster performances. They could bring either, honestly. So that being said, I do think that they need to tone things down a little bit because they're a very aggressive team. They like to take very fun engagement, and David Pay, their head coach and temporary GM, I think, has been very vocal about this on Twitter, that they like to take risks and they are aiming to take that down, but they're happy taking a lot of risks and a lot of good initiatives. So he's liking the direction they are moving right now, and I agree. Being able to take initiative and take a lot of good fights like that is actually a big boon for a team in the Overwatch League, but they need to tone it down a little bit, and I know that they recognize that as well, that they need to tone things down a little bit and maybe not be so volatile. So I think they need to be a bit more level-headed. That being said, I do think that they brought pretty good performances to the May Melee tournament, okay? So they went out against the Philadelphia Fusion in the playoffs. And the Philadelphia Fusion, they are a good team. We know they're a fantastic team, and they couldn't really play up to par against the Philadelphia Fusion. They lost in the head-to-head. But I still think that that's a pretty good performance from the Gladiators. OG showed a great Winston, and we know Space as a diva is fantastic as well. So this is a team that has an incredibly high peak level, in my opinion. I think if they can bring some more consistency to this team and elevate their game a little bit, I think they could be not necessarily a top team, but a really good team in the league. That, you know, not the type of team you'd want to play in the playoffs where they are perhaps a dark horse to make the semifinals, and that might seem like a hot take, but I really do believe if they fix some of their smaller errors like overextending. I know a player like Mirror on the Echo has been very productive on the Echo, but he has a tendency sometimes to overextend and die a bit early in fights or whatever. I think if they're able to tone that back a little bit, I think that, and then elevate their play in elsewhere, maybe they play a bit better compositions, you know, just small improvements. I really think that they have the peak potential to be a dark horse to make the semis of an Overwatch League playoffs, etc. So there's a lot of potential on this team, but they need to fulfill it, and they aren't there right now. That's the important takeaways for me on the LA Gladiators. So I'm looking forward to see this team improve over time. I think that Birdring has had a good season so far, and as I said, I do think that Mirror is a good potential player on this team, but he needs to improve and solidify his play a bit over time. And then OG and Space, they have the potential again. There's so much potential. I keep saying potential, but they have potential. I can't say it enough. They have potential to be really good here. So I think everyone agrees with me that the Gladiators, they have the individual skill. If you disagree, feel free to leave a comment and drop your thoughts on the Gladiators down below here in the YouTube comments, because I'm quite curious about this team. This is one of the most interesting teams in the Overwatch League, in my opinion, because they have so much individual skill and potential, but not really being able to fulfill it. So if you have thoughts on the LA Gladiators, feel free to leave it down below in the YouTube comments, and I'll read it and maybe keep it in mind for upcoming episodes here of Reinforce's Power Rankings. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you really enjoyed some of the answers I provided here to your questions. I hope that you have a fantastic week and that you're ready for more Overwatch League action coming your way pretty soon. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, like, dislike, that's good for me. I don't know. Ask some more questions at Reinforce, at Overwatch League, and hashtag Ask Reinforce. And I'll maybe answer some more questions next week when we finally have some matches being played and I can update my power rankings. What we all want to see. Have a great week, everybody, and I'll see you next week for more power rankings by me, Reinforce. Take care, everybody.